Hello, it's Sean, and you're listening to The 3-Month Vacation. Let's imagine you're in a car, you're headed to the traffic lights, and you hit the brake. What happens next? It's as you should expect, isn't it? The brakes should kick in, and the car should come to a shuddering halt. Then, as you step on the accelerator, the car should gain momentum and move steadily ahead. Not surprisingly, everything on that trip, the wipers, the music, the climate control, all of it should work as we'd expect. But what if there was a delay? What if you hit the brakes and it took a few minutes to stop the car? Worse still, imagine a world where it took a week, a month, or even a year. Suddenly, it makes no sense to get in that debt trap anymore, does it? We would stay well clear of a system that worked but didn't work exactly when we needed it. Yet we seem to put up with just that kind of system when it comes to learning. If you ask anybody, what is learning built on? What is the bedrock of learning? Everybody will tell you feedback. When you get feedback, you know what you have to fix, and then you go out there and you fix it, and things get better, and you learn. But that's not enough. Because usually there's a delay, and any delay in the feedback is a problem. What we need instead is instant feedback. Let that sink in for a moment, because almost all the learning that we endure is based on delayed feedback. We join a course and we're told that we will get feedback at the end of the week. We run a test and the feedback comes in when the teacher is ready. The gap between doing something and feedback is so great that something else happens. That something else is a series of errors. This concept of errors is well illustrated by a Swiss cheese model. It's developed by psychologist James Reason. In this model, he explains that major accidents are rarely the result of a single catastrophic failure, but instead they occur when multiple issues converge. The Swiss cheese model visualizes it this way. Imagine multiple slices of Swiss cheese. They're all stacked together. Each represents a layer of defense. In a plane, this would be engineering, maintenance, crew, training, air traffic control, weather protocols. Now, each slice has random holes in it. Individual weaknesses, they're individual failures. And a disaster generally happens when all of the holes in those layers line up simultaneously. Suddenly, everything falls apart because there are way too many mistakes all at once. But we don't need something as sophisticated as airline travel. We can just go to the cafe and we can take an example of making barista-level coffee. When learning, there is a chance of making several mistakes in a row. You could choose the wrong beans, the grind size could be off by quite a bit, the dose, the distribution, all of that could be problematic. Extraction time and ratio, uneven tamping, wrong weight, all of these things could go wrong. Any of these issues is enough to make a coffee less than palatable. But how are you supposed to know which mistake you're making? Because when someone evaluates your coffee, it's unlikely they will be able to tell you where you went wrong. All they have in front of them is hot, bitter dishwasher in a cup. So what are we supposed to do in such a scenario? Well, we're supposed to line up and listen to the same tired sermon, which is work hard, practice, blah, blah, blah. It's all the really stupid stuff that we've heard over the years, and it's repeated like a litany. But no one will tell you to drive a car that has brakes that don't kick in. But look at everything that you're learning today, and you'll notice that you're running into a Swiss cheese model all the time. When you make even one error, you're shaken. But when you have to deal with many errors all in a row, your confidence drops precipitously. It kills or at least slows down any desire to move ahead. Without too much problem, you could make very good coffee. You could become a cartoonist. You could be a writer. You could go down any domain you choose. You might not break any world records in swimming or the 100-meter dash, but in several domains, you could and could be at least 7 out of 10 at the very least. Instead, the Swiss cheese model of learning, that's our default model. We allow people to make a string of errors so that they feel they're not talented. Then we rub a special brand of salt in the wound saying, work harder, practice more, work, 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 as if they're not trying enough. We assume that we are giving them feedback when the only valid method is instant feedback. It's not like hard work doesn't matter. Effort does have its rightful place, but it's only when it's backed up by instant correction. But is instant feedback even possible in a real-world situation? Comedians think so. They write up a script, they go on tour, and they don't immediately record a Netflix special, do they? They're not practicing or doing hard work either. Instead, they're testing which jokes land. They pay attention when the audience gets testy, when the audience rolls in laughter. They measure for how long they have to wait for a joke to ripple through. To a comedian, a laughing audience is the only type of audience. They can't afford even a few minutes of silence as joke after joke falls flat, because to them it feels like a matter of life and death. Now, when you're learning to draw cartoons or you bake bread, that urgency of instant feedback isn't there because it doesn't feel like life and death. So things are allowed to slide to, oh yes, I'll give you feedback sometime soon. What do we do next as people who are learning? Well, it depends on whether you're learning or teaching. If you're teaching, you will need to break down one concept into smaller sections. For instance, in the cartooning course, we teach a single concept, contrast. That is broken up into warm and cool, big and small, near and far, fuzzy and sharp, light and dark. Now, each of these concepts can take between a week or two. As they go through the daily assignment, and yes, it is daily, they are given feedback. And it's not just feedback, but often instant feedback. Sometimes a client will get feedback within 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes in under 3 minutes. And this feedback, this is the loop that keeps working itself throughout the day. As people come in, do their assignment, they get feedback. Because I get a notification, they get feedback. And here is why it's so very important to give feedback when the client submits their work. When someone puts forward their assignment, they are in the right frame of mind. They've finished their work, they finished what they needed to do, and now they're ready for the feedback. So they have actually chosen the moment when you should pay attention to them. It's almost like a child that comes up saying, I'm hungry. That's the point when you give them the food. Not before, not after. So at that point, when they come with their assignment, they're then told to fix one tiny little thing or 2 or 3 very small elements. Because the fixes are very small, they return with an amended cartoon and then they're given additional feedback, again, in a very short time. So it's all moving back and forth very quickly. Strangely, this is not as difficult for the teacher as it sounds. Now imagine there are 20 students and each one makes about 3 mistakes on the first pass. If you're the kind of trainer who waits before giving feedback, you have to go through 60 different mistakes. When you are fresh, you will ensure that the mistakes are dealt with. But by the time you hit the 20 mistake mark or the 40 mistake mark, you're starting to get very tired. So you in turn start making correction mistakes, or you just get slack because it's normal to do so. It's normal to get tired. But if you're constantly giving feedback throughout the day, you're building in breaks for yourself. And as the day winds down, you're still relatively fresh every time you deal with a new client. Every person who is training under you gets almost full attention. But most of all, the client gets to fix those errors as they pop up. Okay, so you're a teacher. We figured out what you could do as a teacher, but what if you are learning? Well, this is where things get a little difficult, because most of society has its head in the sand about how we learn. They think that you should learn because of hard work, of practice. It's nonsense. As a learner, somehow you have to find a teacher who is willing to give you this level of instant feedback. Maybe ask them. If you go for guitar classes, tell them you don't want to learn the whole song. Maybe just one or two little things, and that's enough. I know it's difficult, but this is what we have to do. If we get instant feedback, we're able to progress much faster than ever before, and we don't have to deal with all of the nonsensical hard work business. In learning as in life, timely correction is everything. You have to close the gap between action and feedback, and that's when progress becomes inevitable. It's just like good brakes and good accelerators. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. What did we cover today? Well, instant feedback is what really causes you to get much faster at something. So when you're doing a course, you have to find somebody who's willing to give you the instant feedback. You might think that you have to be talented, you have to be gifted, you have to work hard, do all that stuff, but that's not real. The reality is you learn through a good system. You learn through a GPS system that tells you go left. Oh, you've gone left. Now you have to turn right. That's the feedback that you want. A GPS system that works 20 minutes later or even 5 minutes later is no use to you. So find that teacher. And we're going to conduct a storytelling course this year in mid-June. That's when we'll start. But the sales page will be up long before that. If you want to sign up, this is a good time because there's an early bird offer. It's not mentioned as early bird, but we'll raise the prices as we go along. And you will learn how to create much better stories for your presentations, for podcasts like this, for pretty much everything. You need storytelling because that's what people remember. You're going to remember this story about the brake and the accelerator long after you've forgotten everything else. Or rather, you will use it as a way to remind yourself about instant feedback. So storytelling is about analogies. It's about Alexander the Great, whatever. But how do you tell that story really well? That's what you learn on the storytelling course. That starts in mid-June, as I said. So check it out. Go to psychotactics.com. Look for storytelling course. And yeah, you'll get instant feedback. You'll see how it works in real life, how a course should be conducted, how training should happen. That's me from Psychotactics Land. I'll say bye for now. Still listening? So it's pretty ironical that I chose this topic because I got instant feedback the whole time. I started recording the podcast and I started getting these mysterious clicks. I don't know where they came from. So I tried everything, rebooted the computer, wouldn't work, shut it down, still getting the clicks. Then I got my laptop and it worked. Everything was going well until I ran out of script. And I realized I had an earlier script and a later script, and I was reading the earlier script, so I had to start all over again. Also, the laptop is much smaller, so I wasn't very comfortable with the shortcut keys that I use on the main keyboard. But guess what? I did not have all of the Swiss cheese layers lined up together. It didn't go from one end to the other. Somewhere along the line, there was a defense mechanism, and that's it. That's how I recorded this podcast. So we'll see you in 5000 BC. And yes, join the storytelling course. It is one of the most fascinating courses that we have, and you will learn a lot. Not just about storytelling, but also we have like a second and third layer of how a course is conducted, what's happening, etc. You'll see it once you get to the course. I'll say bye for now, and we'll see you in 5000 BC. Bye-bye.